Did you know that your story can change lives?
You're listening to Living Beyond with Hope. Hey, that's me.
Welcome to the podcast. This podcast is meant to help you realize you're more than a label, and you too can create a life you love despite it. Each week, we bring you tips and inspiring messages to help you take the positive steps in your health that will allow you to live beyond. Now sit back, relax, meal prep, or take a walk as you dig into today's topic with your host, a gal living her life to the fullest with type 1 diabetes, Hope Mangiafico.
Today, I want to talk to you about a little change that I had happen in my life, and I'm wondering and hoping that my story may inspire you to consider and maybe recognize that you aren't living to your full potential, and not in a negative way, but perhaps you have dreams that you haven't tapped into yet. And while Living Beyond with Hope is supposed to help you literally live beyond, I recognize that if some of you guys are like me, you are well on your way to living beyond and you're ready for the next step. And I'm sharing this because I recently had this realization, and I want to share it with you in hopes that you too can make sure you're taking your life to the next level and always challenging yourself, but living in your purpose as well. So as many of you guys know, I've been working on my storytelling anyway, so this is good. The first few episodes were about a story, a parable, and today is a story about me. And I just kind of want to share with you why I've become so passionate about this stuff and how things have changed for me a little. And I want you to think and consider and ask yourself some questions to see if it's a path that could be happening and could happen to you too. So a little bit about my story. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2002. And in 2002, I frequently heard the words, you won't be able to do the things that you used to do, and you can't really eat those foods anymore, and you really shouldn't keep playing these sports. And constantly I heard shouldn't, can't, won't, and don't. And honestly, for over a decade, I allowed those, what I would consider truths at the time, define me. And I know that even today, while I am confident that I'm living beyond type 1 diabetes, I still have hard days. Days aren't always easy, and I don't know what your label may be, but I know that each label comes with its own hardships. But the point is, like, you don't focus on those hardships. You focus on what you can control. And unfortunately, that was not taught. Let's see. I grew up and I went to a diabetes camp, as I kind of discussed before, and that rocked my world. And it was great to have other people around me that could relate and that also had diabetes. But we were all still taught that, like, we will not be different than other people because we will continue to eat the foods that they ate. We will just give insulin for it. And if people ask questions, we'll be happy to answer them. But at the end of the day, we weren't really taught that to truly feel normal, and not just normal in the sense that, like, hey, we're at a birthday party and we're going to eat this cake, but to feel normal and live the life that other people live by being able to live as many years as those people. We weren't taught that that's a priority. And we thought that living normal was having that piece of cake or going to a party and being able to drink with other people. Like, that is what we thought was normal. And I finally realized on a July 4th, that was not normality. That's not how I was feeling well. And prior to that July 4th event, I was what I thought was considered living beyond. I became an exercise enthusiast, and I kind of did things in the wrong order, which is why here on Living Beyond with Hope, I want to make sure that I give you the right tools, and you can do them how you want to, but there is a specific order. And so I was active as a child, and I will tell you, things were a roller coaster ride for sure. And then I went to college and I gained the weight that a lot of freshmen do. And my diabetes wasn't really what you consider out of control. So in my medical records, I guess you would say, all the way from diagnosis and then 10 years later, not much changed with my diabetes management. And some people would say that's good. I would say that's not good because there wasn't improvement. And no one told me that. But I got frustrated with the weight gain. That's kind of what got me into health. I'm an exercise and sports science major. I'm a fitness professional, sports nutritionist now, and strength and conditioning coach because I decided that exercise is going to be my jam. And I became an exercise enthusiast, but almost like an exercise addict. And the issue was, while exercise helped me manage the label I was given, there was a lot of things missing. When I exercised, I felt good, but then afterwards I would feel bad, or during sometimes I would have moments that I didn't feel well, and I still allowed the label I was given, diabetes, to kind of determine my next steps. And meanwhile, while I was doing all of that, I was not eating right. I was eating like a PB&J and like cereal, and it was like not enough calories. And if you guys know about nutrition, and if you don't know much, I promise you will learn a whole lot here. Those foods were not nutritious. And I thought I was doing well because I don't even remember what my blood sugars were really, but I knew that I was eating the same foods all the time, forget the fact that it was all sugar, and I was losing the weight and I was happy. And then after I graduated, while I knew about nutrition as a sports nutritionist, which just red flag for anyone that is living with a label and has the opportunity to live beyond it and has the ability to kind of change the trajectory of their health, things that are often prescribed are, I would say, the standard American diet, or really even some old school research about nutrition can oftentimes be more of a burden for us. And I just want you to think about that. So I was eating what was considered healthy. After I got over that weird PB&J cereal time in my life, I continued to exercise, but I began to fuel my body with the quote unquote healthy foods. So they were still carby, but I was eating like sprouted bread or Ezekiel bread. I was eating quinoa, brown rice, oatmeal. I was eating what was considered healthy, but again, they were a lot of carbohydrates. And what I didn't know was that a lot of things I was eating was so processed, still messing up my blood sugars and leaving me still not feeling well. And I only started that transition because I recognized the stuff that I learned as a sports nutritionist was not really applicable to me. While I did care about performance when I exercised, I recognized that what they consider blood sugar management when you exercise, which is a whole nother topic, and honestly, it's good for anyone to understand how their bodies respond. I realized that was really only true for people with working pancreases, because I have to control how much insulin went in my body, and my body is so sensitive to insulin, to activity. It is not a one-size-fits-all, and it kind of is if you have a working pancreas. So I am proud to say I'm a sports nutritionist. I can definitely and confidently say that if you are an athlete, I know how you should meal plan and all that fun stuff to have optimal performance. But what I can tell you also is that that meal plan for that athlete, if they have a diagnosis of some sort, is going to change. Because we cannot be carbo loading, even if you don't have diabetes. Like, those things are not in your best interest. So I figured that out. And as I figured that out, things were getting much better. And I got so excited because I always knew I wanted to help other people live beyond. My business is Hopeful Health, and it started off as an in-home personal training and nutrition consulting kind of program. And then I started doing virtual stuff, and then I turned it into an online business. And as I was trying to teach people how to live beyond and how to take control, I recognized that I had a missing element in my life still. Like, you would think, like, dude, Hope, you've got everything figured out. No, I unfortunately did not. I recognized that there was a mentality aspect that was missing, that I still did not think I was good enough. I still did not think that I was in control. I didn't feel in control. And that was a terrible feeling. And that's when I realized I did everything in the wrong order. And I recognized that there was still stuff to learn. And so it was a July 4th with my husband and his friends. They are great people. We just came back from the beach, which I was sick at the beach as well. I even did a live video on Facebook, or I uploaded a video of me going through my blood sugars and saying like, hey guys, life's not perfect, but keep pushing. And literally after that, we were in Florida. We came back home to Charlotte and went to his friend's house. And it was fun. Like there was cornhole, there's food, cooking out. But what happened was the girls wanted to make like a dessert that they knew the guys would kill or should I say, eat a lot of. And diabetes, this is where the mentality part came into play. Diabetes oftentimes made me overeat, and I had an unhealthy relationship with food. And no one really knew that. I was oftentimes a closet eater, or I guess some of my friends were also a little bit of overeaters, but it was no big deal for them. They had a high metabolism. They didn't have diabetes. And I think that with the whole era of my life, that decade where I heard don't, won't, shouldn't, can't, made me want it, made me force myself to have it, and made me feel like I was living in a state of deprivation. And so when they made that dessert, it was my husband, myself, a couple and 3 other couples, and the girls went inside, and it was such an easy dish. All you had to do was put some chocolate chips on the bottom of a baking pan, fill the whole top up with marshmallows, put it in the oven until the marshmallows got nice, and I know you know, because I know those perfectly roasted marshmallows, and right then as the chocolate's starting to melt, you take it out, and all you do is dip graham crackers in there and scoop it out, and it's like eating s'more dip. And I think that night, I don't even know, but I know I ate more than anyone else. And my blood sugar was in the 400s, which for a lot of people, you may not know what that means, but I'll tell you, it meant that my night ended with tears, with frustration, with isolation, and with straight up sickness. And that was when I decided something seriously had to change. That's when my state of mind changed, when I decided this is not the definition of normal, and this is not how I'm going to live my life and prove that statistic that was mailed to me when I was 15 years old by the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation that said people with diabetes lives are shortened by 10 years. I was not going to be that statistic. And I decided that I was capable of changing, and I decided I was going to take things in my own hands. So I started researching, and I started figuring out what would allow me to live a normal life. And for me, and honestly for a lot of you too, the answer was a low carb, aka a diet filled with a lot of vegetables and nuts and healthy fats. So a low carb, high fat diet. And the moment I figured out what that meant, what that looked like, and I say that because there's a wrong way to do it, my success with my health skyrocketed. And while I was teaching people how to be healthy previously, my whole message, my whole mission completely changed. And thankfully, those who were already following me listened and understood that we've got to make a change. I was teaching out of a textbook, and now I'm teaching out of reality and proving to myself and using myself as evidence for others to understand. So that's how Living Beyond with Hope kind of came along, and what my message now is today, where I am a motivator. I recognize that you can't make a change until you feel better. And all the while I was doing this, so as I was starting to turn this into an online business, I was learning a lot of other things. I was, constantly chatting with people on Facebook Live or Periscope, or, posting on Facebook and all social medias. Meanwhile, I was in the background trying to figure out how I can create programs and send out emails to people. And I was learning how to build a business. And I don't know if you've noticed, but based off of what I said about the July 4th event and how things played out, I spent at least 6 to 12 months researching, and I love to learn. And it's like a disease. Like I did not even recognize that I like to learn as much as I do, but I do. And now, as I'm finalizing some things that I'm so excited to share with everyone that will allow living beyond and being healthy easier than ever. And that was my goal, is to make being healthy affordable and easy and enjoyable. I am having a shift, and I'm recognizing that that was definitely part of my calling in life, and it's not going anywhere. And living beyond with hope, there's so much more content to come. So I don't want you to think anything's going to change, because I just started this podcast. So no worries. But I had a realization that as I was talking to somebody who kind of became a dear friend of mine, I helped him kind of through some of his business stuff. And I realized what joy it brought me. What joy it brought me to help someone be able to work out the kinks and help them with some of the stuff that honestly doesn't come naturally. But because I spent so much time researching and trying to find the answers for myself, I could create a shortcut for him and speed up the process for him. And oh my gosh, the joy it brought me to know that he is going to change lives, and to know that I was able to help him live his dream. Best thing that could have ever happened to me. I have since realized I have two purposes in life as of now: to help people with a diagnosis or some sort of label and help them realize that they are more than a label, as well as entrepreneurs who have a dream and help expedite that process, because it is a painful process if you don't have a shortcut, an easy way. And I want to show everyone that I did the research on the best tool, the best way to do it, and I want to share that with them. So now I am trying to tie the two together, or separate but together. And I'm kind of starting here with Living Beyond with Hope, as this podcast is still new. I'm recognizing that some of you who are listeners, you have a dream built inside of you, and you have a purpose. And perhaps if you follow me on other social medias, or you listen even to the first few episodes of this podcast, you may be recognizing that you are more, and you can now feel the confidence that is starting to kind of bust out of you, that you can fulfill the purpose and your calling and your dream. And so this has been heavy on my heart, because I couldn't believe that this opportunity was in front of me for so long, and something just clicked. And today, I want to know if there's something that maybe I shared with you that could just click for you. Do you, despite having some sort of label on your life, like diabetes does not stop me from anything. And I know that some labels are more challenging than diabetes, some are easier, and our days look different. But your story, we all have a story. Your story, or what you enjoy, your hobby, something that you do can change a life. And what I want to ask you, do you want to change lives? Do you want to have an impact on the world and make this world a better place? Did you know that your story, whether it's related to a label that you have, or maybe it's your childhood, or a hardship you've overcome, or even just being a parent and some kind of experience you had in that, did you know that all of these situations, even a label such as a diagnosis such as lupus or MS or diabetes or depression, all of these things are your story? And it is unbelievable at the time that we live in right now, where your story can change lives, and you can reach people faster and more effectively than ever. And now that I've recognized that, I want to help people be healthy, but once they're healthy, not even like healthy in a standard way, but living beyond. And if you have a label that a doctor may say will limit you, I want you to live beyond that limitation and prove to yourself that you are more. So while there may be some difficult times where maybe you can't walk, or you can't eat certain foods, or you have to be in the hospital, I want to be able to help you turn that situation to the best possible situation it can be. and to jump over that hurdle and keep pushing through. And now that I recognize that we can have these stories and hopefully I can help you on this help journey, I want to empower you and help you recognize that you are so worthy and you have a skill set that people need. And while you may not be interested in this right now or maybe never, I felt like I needed to share that. And so it will not be often, but Living Beyond with Hope will every once in a while be sprinkled in with some business advice and tips and just things that I've been learning, and maybe just to plant a seed in your ear or in your head of something that might just spark an idea for you and prepare you to take off running. And I want to tell you that, again, I'm doing this because I realize how much joy this also brings me. And if one listener could just start a business because of something they learned from Living Beyond with Hope, my life would be complete. And if every listener could say that their health journey has been transformed, my life would be complete. But I want my life to be complete by utilizing both those areas and inspiring you in both areas. So every once in a while, there will be a little business stuff, or maybe even just like a business experience I've had, and just to educate you. And some things in business, honestly, are applicable in everyday life. And it's a really cool experience. So I'm excited to share that. And I hope that it's something that you are excited to learn too. And if you're not, maybe you can share it with a listener and share it with a friend and tell them that, hey, there might be some knowledge bombs in this podcast for you. And together, all I know is we're going to rise to the top. We're going to change the world, impact lives, and truly live beyond labels. You are you. You've got a purpose. And I hope to help you find your purpose. But at the very least, I hope to see you one day running around full of energy and saying that your life could not be better.
Thanks so much for hanging out just a little bit longer. I greatly appreciate it. If you found this episode helpful or even a little bit life-changing, it would mean the world to me to have a review in iTunes. A review in iTunes just lets me know that I am actually providing you with the correct guidance and mentorship that you need to live beyond your label and to be confident in who you are. This episode was also brought to you by my next step guide in embracing your label with confidence, which is called Choose to Live. In Choose to Live, there is a checklist of what to ask your doctors. There's an audiobook. So if you like podcasts, an audiobook filled with affirmations to remind you of who you truly are, what you're really made of, as well as some really like homework and checklist and guidance for your family members so that they can support you along the way. This episode was about community, and you cannot do this journey alone. So if you're interested in learning more about Choose to Live, just visit www.icanlivebeyond.com, and you can find that in the show notes as well at livingbeyondwithhope.com. And otherwise, I will see you on the next episode.